Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist slash secular slash awesome community. This is episode 43, and we're recording live on February 12th. Sorry, it's January 12th. I can't even write notes correctly. 2016. This show is kind of a one-year anniversary of the show. Sorry for the occasional go dark periods, but thank you everybody for the support. Thanks to listeners and, of course, the excellent top-shelf guests I've had in the 42 episodes of the show to date. But so far, the majority of my guests have been people who either do this, talking into a microphone for a set period of a week, or into a webcam, or they belong. There's some doing in those endeavors, but they're mostly talking and typing. Tonight I'm talking to a man who's been a true activist. Stephen Hewett served the United States Army, the North Carolina National Guard, and did multiple tours of duty, most recently in Afghanistan. He became a boogeyman to the Christian right when he protested a Christian flag that flew at a Veterans Memorial in where he lives, King, North Carolina. He won the Champion of Reason Award presented by the Hickory Humanist Alliance last April at ReasonCon, and he won the Atheist in the Foxhole Award from the Freedom Religious Foundation, of which he has a shirt, at the 2015 FFRF convention. And I would like to thank him for his service to our country and to the community. Thank you, and welcome to the show, Stephen.
Oh, thank you, Zach. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on your show. Just one other plug. I also won a Free Thought Award from the Secular Conference down in Myrtle Beach back in October. So they honored me with that award also. But,
that was the Hurricane Convention?
Yep. Yeah. I got out of there just before it hit, too.
It was sad to miss it.
It was fun. The convention hall had buckets everywhere. It was leaking. The night before the actual convention, we had a party, and it was just pouring down, cats and dogs. But it was a great time. Good group of people.
Yeah, I've heard very good things, and lots of local people were there as well. I figured I'd start with this is a quote from one of the people who were protesting during a long journey you've had going against King, North Carolina. We should kick the guy's butt, we should, and extend a Christian hand out to pick him up after we beat him up. I'm tired of turning the other cheek. This is a quote from...
That's from George.
George, there's a documentary associated with this, In the Name of God, ? I looked that up on YouTube, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But just a quick, hey, this is what you're going against. Now, you've been on quite a roller coaster ride in your battle with the Christians of North Carolina. We'll talk all about that. But can we start with just talking about your religious background? I understand you were a Christian and a minister.
Well, I grew up in the church. I was pretty heavy in it when I was a youth. Went to church camps. I was a church going fool. I'd be there Sunday morning, Sunday school, church service, training union, church service that night, Royal Ambassadors on Wednesday. And then I would go out. We would have youth groups, monthly meetings I would go to, and so I was pretty big into it. And when I got married, I married a kind of I would say a semi-preacher's daughter. He said he was a preacher, but he's one of those self-made guys, never ordained that I'm aware of. But anyhow, so when I went in the Army, I got stationed out Fort Hood, Texas, got into the church there, and then they licensed me as a minister because I felt that God was calling me into the ministry. And boy, was I fooled. So that's kind of a quick background of my religious beliefs at that time, I should say. Now, of course, I'm a full-fledged, full-blown atheist. And one thing you said, happy anniversary for your year here, but it's also my anniversary that a year ago that my lawsuit was settled here in King. And so I'm also having that anniversary this week as well. So
pretty awesome. Yeah. I think around the time because I was listening to your interview with Atheist Avengers, and they were kind of doing their interviews pre ReasonCon, and they had you on. Actually, it was like right before the Super Bowl, so it was almost a year ago that happened.
Yep.
So it's kind of amazing how time flies, huh?
Oh, it is. I can't believe it's been a year already, but of course the aftermath is still going on with the local people. There had been a couple protest rallies shortly after that, one in February of last year, and then in March. Our good old Stokes County militia here was behind those, and our local church that had raised about 5,000 people to march against me back in 2012. So they're still quite active in trying to push their agenda, but I think they found that I cannot be intimidated. I won't back down, and I won't stop.
Yeah, I'd say at this point that's kind of a fruitless effort, but I know they're not going to stop. But can you talk about like your military background, because it's kind of just seeing a little bio on you, and you've actually were in the Army starting in the 70s. So.
Yeah, I went in the Army in 1975. Went to basic at Fort Ord, California. Then I got stationed in Fort Hood, Texas. I was there for about a year and a half, and then I went to Germany. And I was in Germany, I believe, for about a year and a half. And then I got these nice little messages from my father-in-law that your wife has left you, and you need to come home. Finances are in ruins. And so during that period of time, I'm sitting there by myself, and of course I was very religious, and I'm going, God, what the heck is going on? I would be in the base chapel. It was always open, and I can remember being there bawling my eyes out. God, I love my wife. I love my family. Keep us together. So in 1978, this is when this was going on. So I got emergency leave, came back to the States, and got custody of my son and got the hell out of the Army. Because my dad was military, he was Air Force, so I got transferred every couple of years. So I didn't really want to do that all the rest of my life, so I got out. Went into, started my own business, started a couple karate schools, went into law enforcement, and then realized, that it's kind of a dead end, not making a lot of money in law enforcement. Putting your life on the line for $8.50 an hour just wasn't quite worth it. So a friend of mine gave me a call and says, hey, look, I just left law enforcement, joined the National Guard, and so I decided to do the same thing. So I went, joined the National Guard, got on as a full-time technician at the flight facility in Raleigh, and the rest of history is kind of got activated in 2003, went to Afghanistan for almost a year. We were totally activated for almost a year and a half. Hurt my back while I was there. Actually, I hurt my back prior to that at the flight facility, and fell off a helicopter. That didn't land too well, put it that way. A little pun there. But anyhow, retired in 2005, and been retired ever since. So, but one thing about my faith, I started losing my faith right at the end when I was getting out of the Army back in the 70s. I mean, I was going like, well, how can God not keep us together? I love my wife, I love my child, I loved God, and I can remember praying over my son about keeping us together, and really I just realized, well, prayer just really wasn't answered, and then I started questioning the Bible, because I just believed what people told me. I really didn't read it, and analyze it. And after doing that, it's like, okay, it's not true. And so, and that led me to where I am now, being an activist and standing up for our rights and our beliefs, and especially with veterans. I was really appalled that our city was using veterans as a means to push their Christian agenda at the memorial, especially during the Veterans Day services, the Memorial Day services, 9/11 services, and also having a Christian flag on a veterans memorial. I was like, what the heck's going on with that?
Yeah, can we talk about that's a since we've been talking about it, and some people on the show have probably heard your story and some haven't. So can you talk about how this whole kind of controversy started about the Veterans Memorial in King, and how you end up getting involved with the local government there and kind of grappling with that?
Well, as I stated, for quite a few years, I would go to the Veterans Day service and the memorial service, and at that time they also had 9/11 service, and I was really noticing a major theme at these services, and they were Christian, especially our 9/11, and that's the one that kind of started it. Is that the City of King, in conjunction with the American Legion and the Stokes County Arts Council, put on these services, but it was sponsored by the city itself. And at this 9/11 service, there's one of these ladies that were singers that were there, got up and started singing this song called "I'm an American Christian." And I stood there and I was going like, well, what about the rest of us? I'm not a Christian. I looked over to my right and I saw actually a Muslim lady who was there. She was honoring her father with a tile at the memorial, or her father-in-law, excuse me. And but I also noticed that there is a wide berth of people that were around them. It was like about a 20-yard wide circle. She was there with her scarf on. She wasn't in a full Muslim outfit covering her face and everything, but even her scarf she had as an American flag, so I thought that was kind of humorous in a way. But I went up and I greeted her in the Muslim custom, and she responded, and I asked her why she was there, and she told me, and I apologized to her for how the people were treating her, and she thanked me, but that kind of started setting things off. The Christian flag that was flying at the top of the memorial next to the American flag, I was really kind of offended by the fact that the city would put up a religious emblem instead of just having the memorial for recognizing veterans and veterans only. And then shortly after that, I actually made a complaint to the then city manager, Mr. Cater, and that was an interesting conversation. It started out, I told him that it needed to come down, and he was complaining as to, well, why does it need to do this? And then he says, well, you're going to answer to God and Jesus Christ for this. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. I don't answer to anybody, and you certainly don't have the right to start preaching your religion to me in your position as city manager. I mean, this is an official call, and you're in your official capacity. And then all of a sudden there was a click, they hung up on me. So I called back, and this time I recorded the conversation. And so, and the rest of it was pretty interesting. I gave him scenarios. Well, what if it was a Muslim flag? He says, well, that wouldn't happen. There's no way that would happen. I'm like, well, what if it was? Well, then nobody would go there. And so he just couldn't understand, put the shoe on the other foot and see how it feels. Then I also told him this, at that time they had put a kneeling soldier cross, a soldier kneeling before a cross at the memorial. And I said, that needs to go too, because that's a Christian symbol there. And so anyhow, the conversation pretty much ended there. He brought up the complaint to the city council, and apparently there was just one lady there that night that looked at the agenda and going like, well, why is this there? And so she complained about it, and then after that it was like, hit the newspaper, hit the news media, and it's all twisted and contorted as to the real reason why it needed to come down. But anyhow, it evolved eventually into what it is now, or what it was, a lawsuit. The city tried to sidestep it a little bit by making what's called a limited public forum. I don't know if you're familiar with that, or the listeners are, but what that is that it's free speech, but it's limited speech, and it's limited to what they want it to be. And so what this limited public forum ended being was that they took the flag down, and it's really Barry Lynn of America's United for Separation of Church and State called it exactly what it was. It's just a sham, because it was just a means for them to put the Christian flag back up for every day. So it was a lottery. You put your application in, you were assigned a number. That application number was assigned a ping pong ball with a number. And so they had a ping pong ball kind of game where they spin the bin, ball comes up, that ball is matched with a week, and you get to fly whatever religious flag that you want for that week. But there were stipulations to that, and that the flag had to be with a symbol that represented that of the Arlington National Cemetery symbols that are on the tombstones there. So you just couldn't have the spaghetti monster flag flying. It had to be a recognized symbol of Arlington, which is roughly 54 symbols. And so the first...
Do they have a non-religious symbol?
Yeah, Arlington National Cemetery, of course everybody should know where Arlington is. That's in Virginia, where our honored war dead are buried. On the tombstones there are religious symbols of the individual's choice. Some of them have absolutely none. Others have, I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, we had a soldier who was killed in Iraq, and he was a Wiccan. Well, the Arlington did not have the Wiccan symbol as a recognized symbol. So they had to get a hold of their congressman. They had to get Congress involved. And then the whatever committee runs Arlington for the symbols said, yes, we'll allow it because it's a recognized religious belief. So you have multiple symbols, like Wiccan, atheist symbol is there, humanist, of course Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, a plethora of other ones. But the thing is that's the individual soldier's belief. And that's on their tombstone and only on their tombstone. So you don't have Christian tombstones all over Arlington. You don't have Christian flags or religious flags flying in Arlington. In fact, there's only a few crosses that are actually at Arlington, and those are privately owned. So for the city to say you could only have these symbols really limited the speech of people, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Because King is majority Christian. There are very few atheists, very few Buddhists, very few other religions in town. So they knew that it would be predominantly Christian applications, and which is exactly what it was. Out of the 112 applications that were first submitted, all of them were Christian except one, and that was actually George, the guy who wanted to kick my butt. He put in an atheist application for his dad, and I thought that was humorous. But now I actually initially put in Christian because nobody knew how this was going to go. So I wanted to make sure my application got accepted, because I don't trust the city. I didn't trust the American Legion. You get an application, it disappeared. You never turned it in. So, but shortly after that, I changed all my applications to other religions or non-religion, which was acceptable under the rules. So I knew I could, circumvent having to fly a Christian flag or symbol. So that first year, and it was really kind of ironic, I put in 5 applications and all 5 were picked. So my odds were pretty good, I guess. Too bad I can't win the lottery that way. But then another individual, she put in for no flag to fly, and she's actually in Scott Burdick's film In God We Trust. And when they flew no flag, they were actually threatened with physical harm at the memorial. I believe it's her sister, was told that she was going to have her arms broken if she removed these little tiny silver crosses that were on the plaque at the memorial. And so, but anyhow, I digress. So that was the first year. The second year, same thing. My 5 applications were accepted. The third year, I think I had another 5 or 6. And the final year, which was last year, I had another 5 applications accepted, or luckily drawn with the ping pong balls. But each year, less and less Christian applications were put in. So it almost went to one year where they weren't even going to have enough applications to keep a flag flying. But at the last minute, they had a surge of 4 or 5, which pushed it over the 52 weeks. But anyhow, it was a sham policy. It was meant for only one thing, and that one thing was to keep the Christian flag flying at the memorial. And it's sad that you have to have a city that will align themselves with, at that time it was the ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, these religious attorney organizations that try to force or push their agenda upon the population. But I can say now the memorial has been restored to honoring veterans, and that was my whole issue. And I really want to emphasize that with people. It wasn't, I wasn't against religion, I wasn't against Christianity. I was against the city using veterans as a means to push their religious agenda at a veterans memorial. Because as a veteran, and I'm pretty sure every single veteran out there should agree with me, if they don't, well, I take offense to it, I guess, is that we honor 2 things at war memorials. We honor service and we honor sacrifice of our veterans, and that's the only thing that should be honored. Religion is a private issue, it's a private matter, and should not be pushed or stressed in any way at a veterans memorial. And that was my position. And of course it got convoluted into, well, you hate Christians, you're an atheist, you're violating our rights. And I tried to figure out what rights were those that I was violating. This is a veterans memorial paid for by taxpayer money on city property, maintained by the city, even though there was some donations. About half of it was donated, money was donated by private people and by the selling of tiles with people's names at the base of the memorial. But still, the point is the city owned it, government, public property. We have separation of church and state, and that's how it should be. And so the memorial now is free of any religious symbols. And when you go there, you honor the veterans and their service and sacrifice to our country.
Yeah, it's interesting deep down that really the position you were taking was kind of a neutral position, but the position that the people going against you were taking the extreme and, I don't know, kind of this weird hyper-Christian side where you were like the enemy to their supposed, I don't know, it was almost like they come off as like there's one Christianity, and there's not really that's the case.
Yeah. Well, if you watch, and I'll put a plug in there, I know you're probably going to put a link to it later, Scott Burdick's video, it's called In God We Trust. And I did not know Scott at all until this video was being made. In fact, I wasn't even going to give an interview because I didn't trust who he was. Of course, now we're great friends, and he's just an awesome individual. But he came home from a travel. He's an artist, so he travels and he paints. And he came home to find these huge protests going on. and Christian flags flying everywhere in town. And so when he inquired what was happening, he decided, well, I'm going to make a documentary. And if you watch the documentary, you're going to see the mentality of the people that live in this community, how they feel about their one being Christian and Christianity, and the point that they feel that they have to push this on everybody. This is a Christian nation. This is a Christian community. It's a Christian council. These are our rights. You're violating our rights by taking that flag down, by taking that cross off the memorial. And when you stop and you ask them, well, show me where in the Constitution does it say you have these rights? And they say, well, we have freedom of religion. Well, yes, you do. You're free to worship anywhere you want. In your home, in your church, fly your Christian flag on your automobile, which many of them do. Fly it in your business. Fly it at your home. You're free to go to any church you want. You're free to build any church you want. You're free to worship any way you want. But they can't understand that where our rights begin, theirs end. And that especially on public property, that's kind of a neutral area. I mean, certainly you've got freedom of speech. I mean, we have many people that go down here to the street corner and they scream and holler, hell and brimstone, you're going to die, and that kind of stuff. And I'm all for that. That is what I went to Afghanistan to defend, our rights and our freedoms, and their religious freedoms. But I didn't defend their right to push it on me and force it on me and others. So that's where I draw the line. And they just can't understand that. They cannot put themselves in another person's position. I just don't understand it. I really don't.
There's definitely a lack of empathy there. But let me take a short break. I want to do my live read here, and then we'll get back to Stephen Hewett, who's been awesome so far and will continue to be awesome. I know the future. So if you've ever thought to yourself that pulsating mastermind behind the dearly departed Coronify Me, now the Q podcast and Atheist Apocalypse, had too much free time, well, worry no more. He started a new venture with Anya, and I hope I pronounced that correct, also known as Nice Mangoes, called Polite Conversations. Find episode 1 of that show on episode 101 of the Q podcast, in which they interview Miriam Namazi, an ex-Muslim, talking about the situation in England, where she did a speech recently, and it was most rudely interrupted, and it's a great show. And it's I always thought the best part of Coronifying was Paul's interviews with ex-Muslims, and that's where they're going to focus. So I think they're going to have their own feed eventually. But anyway, we're back here. So do you know anything about the history of the Christian flag? Because I had never even heard of the Christian flag until I went to ReasonCon, where 2 guys in a minivan had the Christian flag and were just flying it. And I remember us waving to them when we went by. But do you know anything about the flag itself?
Well, I don't know the full history. I know that it's made by a preacher many years ago, and each of the colors symbolize. I think the red symbolizes the blood of Christ. The white purity. The blue his royalty or divinity or something like that. And so it was. I can't remember when it started. Late 1800s, early 1900s. I'd have to look it up to be certain, but and then there's many versions of it also. Not all Christian denominations use the version that you see, the white blue corner with a red Latin cross in it. Many of them have alterations of it, like Methodists have a different version of it and so forth. But but it's come to symbolize pretty much the Protestant Christian faith.
Yeah, there was one part. I think is it your father-in-law who was Catholic?
Yes.
And you were going to fly, or somebody, it might have been you, was going to fly a Catholic flag, but that wasn't an actual allowed flag.
Right. Yeah, it's my wife's week. She had put in an application, and we were going to fly the Catholic flag, the Popal flag. It's yellow, white in the middle, and then it has the Popal symbol in it. And it was turned down by the city. They said that that was not a recognized symbol of Arlington, and that we could not do it. And we're like, well, wait a minute, we're supposed to have our freedom of speech, and this is a public forum, and this is our time to have our forum, and yet you're refusing it. And actually, in their denial of that did not set well with the judges in the lawsuit. That came up during discussion and was also part of the complaint. So, actually the city kind of helped us along by doing that. They're actually denying my wife, who is Catholic, denying her faith, her right to put her flag up. But yet the Christians could put theirs up without any issue. So you could see the bias. I mean, there was one time I did get to fly a Buddhist flag. I had a Buddhist emblem, and I flew the Buddhist flag 1 week. And I want to emphasize that at any time a Christian flag was flown, there was never a single protest by anybody. We respected their right to have their time to put the flag up, and but yet when the first week that a flag was not going to fly, there were protesters out there from the militia. There are protesters from the church waving their Christian flags, staking them in the ground, and again actually threatening one of the women there, so they were going to break her arm. Because at the base of the flagpole there was a box where you could put in the information concerning the person you're flying the flag in honor of. Well, some gentleman, I call him that, he's really not, put these two little silver crosses in that case. Well, one of the girls, and it's in Scott's video, they talk about it in there, she was going to remove them. Well, he told her if she did, he would break her arms. Well, the police were called, and the guy had left, and there's people there denying it happened. Well, that never took place. Well, yes, it did take place. Even some of the Christians that were there said, yes, he did threaten her. But our good old local police department, who's run by Chief May, who's quite a Christian herself, they said that we couldn't file charges against him because it really wasn't a threat. We're like, well, I used to be a police officer here in North Carolina, and that's pretty much a threat. If you do something, I'm going to break your arm. That's conveying a threat. But anyhow, the guy left. No charges were filed. But surprisingly, through a request for information, the city denies that ever even took place. City denies that any officers were called to the scene. They deny that anything happened at all. And so it's quite interesting because we do have it on film. But then later on, when I myself was going to fly no flags again, there were protesters there. The news media was there. We had a lady was chasing me down through the parking lot like the paparazzi. Then when I flew the Buddhist flag, our good old Stokes County militia was there protesting it and having their Christian flag. So it's just quite interesting that when other people were exercising their freedoms of speech and our rights, that they didn't like it, so they're going to protest it. But yet we respected their right to be able to fly their flag when they wanted. So,
well, you mentioned someone who decided not to fly a flag and them being threatened. Did you have times where you were personally threatened, or you felt threatened by people who lived in your city and your county?
Oh yeah, quite often. The blogosphere was full of threats. Facebook was full of threats. And somebody posts on there, says, why is this man still alive? Well, I'm alive because you're too much of a coward to come and try and do it. But you're wanting somebody else too by saying that. We even had at this rally that I'm talking about, and you'll see it in Scott's video, there was 5,000 people that marched in 2010 through King, flying their Christian flags back and forth. They rallied at the memorial in the amphitheater, and David Gibbs, who is part of a religious law firm, embroiled these people so much. He told them that if you know, and I'm paraphrasing, if you know anyone here who disagrees with this, you need to encourage them to leave. And 2 days later, I was assaulted by a neighbor, physically assaulted. I had to take restraining order out on him. I took criminal charges out on him for trespassing and assault, and spent a year going back and forth to court with this guy. And he was Jesus. He's a Jesus freak to the max. I had to put security cameras up on my house, which I caught him several times. He'd walk by pointing his finger at me, repent or else, Steve Hewett. And then denied that it was him in court with the judge, even though he had the video there showing him. I had people that wanted to ruin my credit. One gentleman posted on the internet, he wanted my mother's maiden name, wanted my birth date, and he said he would F up my credit. Had to get the attorneys from America's United. They wrote him a cease and desist letter and threatened legal action if they were to do anything. Then, of course, the threats of, well, we need to find you at the bottom of the lake. I mean, they're implied threats, but they're still threats. And, when you look around the country and you see abortion clinics where somebody's gone in there, like recently in Colorado, and shot the place up, well, you don't know what wacko, and that guy was from North Carolina too. So you don't know what wacko's out there that might be coming around driving by my house or meet me on the street or something and pull out a gun. So, I was watching my back quite a bit. They even went after my wife. At school, these people made comments that they wanted to get my wife fired. They wanted to close my business down, and so that I couldn't have an income and I would have to move. Of course, these guys are I kind of phrase it this way, a bunch of idiots. I'm retired from the federal government. Unless you shut the federal government down, I'll get a check every month. So, and I'm debt free. My house is paid off. My vehicles are paid off. So they could not hurt me financially, and I knew that, but they didn't. They put out on the internet, don't do business with him, shut his karate school down, like I said, get his wife fired. So, and these are really good, nice, sweet, loving Christian people. Just the kind of people you want to have next door.
So what kind of support did you get? You mentioned the ACLU and FFRF during your lawsuit and all the other issues you're having.
Well, initially the complaint was filed with the ACLU. Excuse me. And the ACLU wrote the city a few letters. FFRF also got involved. They wrote the city a few letters. And those letters kind of embroiled these people even more to kind of fight against me. Eventually I got up with America's United for Separation of Church and State out of Washington, D.C. Greg Lipper is their lead attorney. Great guy, awesome attorney. Couldn't ask for, sorry about this, my cat wants to join the
awesome
conversation here.
You're always welcome.
All right, we'll put a pun in there. Say hi, Toshi. Hi, Toshi. Okay. So, anyhow, so Greg Lipper, fantastic attorney. Zachary was also, I can't remember Zach's last name. I can't remember, darn it. Anyhow, great guy also. But anyhow, they took the lead in the case. They wrote letters as well as the lawsuit itself. But even though the ACLU and FFRF didn't file suit, they still helped tremendously in support as far as taking some legal actions, advising the city, hey, this is against the Constitution, this is against case law. But now, as far as locally individuals, I was alone there for quite some time, for about a year. Me and the wife were really, really kind of homebound. Didn't know any. We had no idea we had support out there until one day I was reading on Facebook this local group called FACT. It's Forsyth Area Critical Thinkers down in Forsyth County. I found them on the Meetup site, went to their meeting, and boy, they said, look, we've been supporting you, we've been writing letters to the editors and stuff. And so I finally found support, local support, the people that I could talk to and depend upon for some guidance and so forth. And I think that's one of the things I really want to emphasize a lot about, is that when you do something like I'm doing, becoming an activist, is to seek out local people and also national organizations such as FFRF, American Atheists, American Humanists. They can put you in contact with local groups and give you a lot of the emotional and support that you're going to need, because this is not an easy endeavor when you start standing up against a city and a community, especially when you get these preachers behind you that want to vilify you as being the most evil person on this planet, comparing you with Hitler and Stalin and Mao and all the most horrific people that you can imagine. Just recently, with the issue with the prayer complaints that I've made, we had Reverend Beatty, who's the Brennan Baptist Church in Winston-Salem. He got on his TV station and just was really ridiculing me. This atheist down there, he hates God, he hates Christians, he hates anything to do with Jesus and God. And I mean, this man was just ripping me a new one in his church. And then, of course, we had a local guy here named Daryl Calloway, and he has Calloway Welding. He's the current leader of the Stokes County Militia, and he went on national Fox radio network and spread a bunch of lies about me. Was saying that the lawsuit was all over vengeance, that I had a sign in my yard for my business and the city made me take it down and I was mad, and that I went after him over the flag issue, which was not true at all. I even had the city write a letter to say it wasn't true. so part of that got published in our local newspaper, and I called these guys out for all the lies that they were stating. And that's the thing that you got to look out for. You got to have a backbone, because you're going to have some people that are going to be backstabbing you. They're going to say mean, hateful. They're going to make lies up. There's this guy named, if I can remember it, I want to call him Dumbdorf, but it's anyway, I can't remember his name completely. He's also with the militia. He started to spread a rumor that I was threatened by the Postal Service inspectors with federal lockup because I harassed female clerks at the post office. And we're like, well, he used to work at the post office. He was a part-time employee. They kind of forced him out. But, I go down and talk to the postmaster. Hey, is any of this true? He goes, no, first I've ever heard of it. He says, yep, same here. So these people, these are good Christian loving people, will make these vile lies about you. And so it's, and there's a reason why they do it, because they try to intimidate you. They try to harass you to the point where Others should take notice. This is a warning. You do this, this is what's going to happen to you. And I tell you what, it makes you start thinking that you live in the era of Nazi Germany, with brown shirts that would go to stores and put Jewish symbols on the store. You're not supposed to shop there. You're not supposed to associate with these people. They even one of the guys even put out that all the businesses in town should not do business with me. If I'm at a restaurant, the server should not serve me. You just shake your head and wonder what the hell is wrong with you people.
Hit the mute there, so I was trying to type and not be heard while I'm typing because it's so loud. I've been told that before. I wanted, before we continue, to one more live read, and then we'll get through and conclude this lovely episode of Zachrilege Cast. I wanted to give some love to two of my favorite baby podcasts. These are new shows that you should check out. Cy Lost of Save My Soul podcast and Naomi and Neil of Unequally Yoked. Actually, I believe Neil they live in North Carolina. These are podcasts that deserve equal of your time. Sal talks about one subject a week, usually a word long, the subject, not the show. Naomi and Neil navigate the waters of an unequally yoked relationship, one Mormon and one less so. Now, Stephen, you mentioned, you're talking about the people who are saying things about you and spreading lies and stuff. Do you think this level of vitriol is a new thing? Do you think it's born of the internet? Or you think people have been kind of this mean-spirited for a while and we're just kind of seeing it because of the spread of media and we're getting to see more of this from people?
Well, I think that because of the internet and the anonymity that it allows, that we see more of it. We're going to see more of it. Even in some places like on Facebook, where people don't think you're going to see them making comments. They're going to pop up and you can see who they are. But that leads to a lot of people making fake Facebook accounts so that they can do just that. It's just going to get worse because when you stand up for what's right, when you stand up for the rights and privileges of all, and I want to really emphasize that I believe in freedom of religion. I may not agree with your religion. I don't agree with Christianity. I don't agree with Islam. I don't agree with any religion. But you're free to believe that, and I have no problem with that, as long as you stay away from me. Don't force it on me. Don't force it on others. Don't force it. Don't use politics to force it on the people, which we're seeing that happen in our local city, our county, state level, especially here in North Carolina, our national level with abortion issues, with what's happening right now. Well, look at Judge Moore. Was it down in Alabama or Georgia who wants to defy the Supreme Court's rulings? I mean, so these people are pushing back, and they're pushing back hard. I tell you, every day I read of something new across this country where the religious right is trying to get a foothold in and force their religion down our throats. And we've got to stand up against this. And I really want to emphasize this, is that we are equal in this country. We're not a Christian nation, never have been, never will be. Well documented, our founders never meant it to be. So this Christian revisionist movement that's going on in our schools, in our legislatures, we have to stand up and be a voice. The other week I was in Raleigh at the Triangle Free Thought, and they had David Silverman there, and he was talking about fighting God, an atheist manifesto for a religious world, and I have to agree with him. And he's very strong about this, that atheists need to stand up and be counted and be heard. But this religious right wants to keep us quiet. They want to do exactly what they've done to me and exactly what you just mentioned. They're going to get on the internet. They're going to call you names. They're going to make up lies. They're going to do everything they can to make you be quiet. Because if they can shut you up, then they win. Oh, wait a minute. Doesn't that sound like ISIS? Oh, yeah, that's right. It sounds like ISIS, the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda. There's very little difference between these two groups. In fact, if we look across the country, we have Christians that are killing people. Abortion clinics, most of them were Christians that did that. The Murrell building out in Colorado, back with Tim McVeigh, he was a Christian. Killed, 160, 180 people? Of course now, many of them are not going to do that. But you're going to have that one or two wackos, I'll call them, out there that are going to do it. Look what's happening in Oregon right now. You have a Christian militia group out there taking over federal land. It's disheartening that we live in a country that you can't express yourself freely without having some type of fear of being ostracized in some way. I'm in a unique position because I won't say that I'm an untouchable, but I call myself an untouchable because I'm financially secure. I can't be hurt. I don't have a job that I can lose. I don't have family I'm going to lose. And I know there are many people out there that do. And I've read many stories of atheists who have stood up, just like I have, and have lost their families, lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their businesses. Several years ago in Atlanta, when a lawyer was fighting with actually Judge Moore before he got removed from the judgeship about the Ten Commandments monument in the Capitol, in his courthouse. She stood up against him. She come home to find out her home was shot up. She had to leave. She lost all her clients, so she moved out of state. And many other stories. I mean, if you're a member of FFRF, you get a monthly newspaper that you can read about people and what's happened to them. Same thing with Americans United or American Atheists, American Humanists. I'm not trying to put in plugs for these organizations, but I'm going to tell you what, those organizations are there fighting for us. And they're giving us a voice. And we need that. So I just hope more people will start standing up and saying, hey, I'm an atheist. So what?
Well, you mentioned the anniversary of the lawsuit. So how was that settled and what's kind of happened after? This is kind of a happy ending in a way?
It's a happy ending for me, I can tell you that. What happened is that we had some mandatory negotiation meetings that the judge imposed. And the last one was actually with Judge Beatty, who would be hearing the case in court. And I can't talk a lot about that because those were private meetings, but I'll just put it this way. At first I thought it wasn't going to go our way, but as the meeting progressed, well, I knew we were going to win. And so we went off to our separate rooms and we were doing negotiations. And the city basically caved in and said, okay, what do you want? And says, well, we want the flag removed. We want the kneeling soldier cross removed. And the judge had already ruled on a partial ruling on the lawsuit itself. He ruled that the city was guilty of sponsoring Christian events at the memorial. They were ordered to stop that, so that's actually a court order. The other two parts are an agreement, but they're signed off by the judge, so they're binding. The city's the city's insurance company ended up paying Americans United for Separation of Church and State $500,000 in attorney fees. They paid out of city funds $50,000 in taxpayers' money to attorneys to get advice on the lawsuit, and they paid me $1. So
now, did you get like a check or something that you had framed?
Yeah, I got a check. I got it around here somewhere. I haven't framed it yet, but it's a nominal. You always sue for a fee, and you sue for $1 just so you show it's not about the money. It's a nominal fee. So yeah, I haven't cashed that check. That check's going in a frame. But since then, a month later, the Stokes County Militia had a rally with I think it's 2 million bikers for DC or something like that. They had 200 or 300 people at their rally, and of course they spread more lies at the rally. Oh, right. Kind of cat too.
For the audio only, Scatman, one of the kittens made an appearance, and he does not like being on podcasts, so he's out. That was quick. Always have a cat break.
But they had a rally, and they had speakers, and of course they spread some more lies concerning me and the lawsuit. Then a month later, they had another rally again, and they had less people there at this one, so their kind of hot air was getting blown out. But since then, they basically have just spoken up at council meetings where I've been, where I have been addressing the issue of prayer at the council meetings. I put in 2 requests, one in the city of King to give invocation, and one at the county council in Stokes County, and both requests were denied. And so speaking with the attorneys with Americans United, we're in a holding pattern right now because of the lawsuit that's in the federal courts that's happening in Rowan County. Once there's a ruling on that in the I think it's 3rd or 4th district up in Richmond, then we'll know how to proceed with that. So for right now, City of King is having a Christian prayer by the councilman. Same thing with the Stokes County commissioners. So if you go to any of their meetings, you're going to be subjected to their religious dogma. So
it seems like every council just has to do that. And like, no, we can't do it before it officially starts. It has to be part of the official record.
Yeah, that's kind of bothersome. I even addressed one of the councilmen concerning that with the Stokes County commissioners, and I'm like, well, why don't you just go into your office and pray before the meeting? I mean, why do you have to push it at the meeting itself? And I even quoted scripture to him. I mean, in Matthew.
I figured that was going to come up.
Yeah, I even tell him, says, look, God tells you to go and pray in a closet. Not to stand on the street corner, and certainly you're going to get your reward, but your reward's not in heaven for that. It's just people you're in front of. So, but anyhow, he kind of blew it off as being, well, that's the a different situation, and I'm like, no, you're grandstanding. So, but it seems like every city, just about, or every council somewhere is pushing this prayer issue. Well, look what's happening on our police cars and our sheriff's cars. Putting in God we trust. We got here in North Carolina an organization, the U.S. Motto Committee, putting in God we trust on all our government buildings. They did up in Stokes County, where I said, well, let's put in reason we trust on the building. And they said, no, we can't have that. That's So we got in God we trust. Well, not all of us trust in a God. So, but so it's being pushed, and it's being pushed hard. Look at our schools. You got many schools throughout the country here, teachers that are pushing religion into school and trying to stand up saying it's their right. It's their individual right to do this. No, it's not. You can't have a captive audience in the classroom and pull out your Bible and start reading it to the kids in class. That's not our America. That's not what our founding fathers wanted. So it's there's a war out there. It's not a war against Christianity. The war is Christians upon everybody else pushing their agenda, and they're pushing it hard.
I have to ask this of you because you are a veteran. You've actually served. What do you think about people just throwing that word out there? Because they always say war on Christmas, it's a war on Christians, it's a war on... Doesn't it seem like people who use that term are people who've never been there?
I really can't say yes or no because unless I talk to the person themselves, um, I know it's an easy word to use, saying that it's a war, or that they're victims, um, or their rights and their privileges are being taken away from them. And then when you ask them, well, show me in the Constitution where it says you have that right, or show me where it says that you have that right and I don't. I mean, last time I checked, the Constitution gave everybody the same rights and privileges, not any one above another. So, but I do know this. I know a lot of veterans who tried to stand up and say they're a patriot and they know the Constitution and so forth. And when you look into their background, I can say it publicly because I've got the proof for it, is the Mike Marshall who formed the Stokes County Militia in opposition to me. He himself was kicked out of the Marine Corps. He spent less than 9 months, went to boot camp, went to Camp Lejeune, went AWOL twice, and they booted his butt out. And this man stands up as being some type of patriot and leader of the community. And I'm going like, you're a patriot? I didn't see you in that battlefield where I was at. The guy who took over, Darrell Calloway, he's now the leader of the Stokes County Militia. He left the Navy after less than 60 days. He got a general discharge. Both of these people got general discharges. They do not have honorable discharges. So you get these type of people that are screaming and yelling the loudest. Then when you look into their background, you go like, well, wait a minute. You don't have any integrity. You don't have any honor. So you can question that. Yeah, to some degree you could. But I would look into somebody's background first before I made any comment. I just can't generalize everybody. But certainly the majority is out there saying there's some kind of war. Look at our presidential candidates. There's a war on Christianity, and of course they're playing to the masses for the votes. But
maybe just take one of the lessons that you take whatever the Christians are saying and go, oh, that's what they're doing, because they always say there's a war on them. But then what they're doing is it's a very organized effort for sure. When you can get more people to a rally than actually live in a town, you can tell they're bringing people in. It's coordinated, and there's big money. Hopefully they're wasting the money because they seem to have a lot. We're near the end of the hour, and usually this point is where I say, hey, guest, pimp all your shows and blogs and stuff, but you're more of a guest on podcasts. So I heard you're working on a book about your experience. Is that still happening?
Yeah, it's in the process. Yes, it is. I'm getting ready to go ahead and start write it. One thing that I like to do is I like to fact check. I'm just not going to write something and make a statement and not be able to quote the source, unlike these local people here about me. So it's not an easy adventure, and it seems like every day I get more and more information to put in the book, and I got some good advice from one of the attorneys up at the FFRF convention. I think it's Andrew. He said, look, you just kind of have to stop and just write, and because otherwise you'll never get it done because there's always new things popping up all the time. So yeah, I'm going to start writing it, and I imagine it'll probably take probably a good year, and then of course get it proofed and hopefully get somebody to print it.
Well, that sounds great. Well, I do want to say thanks for being on the show. I know we had a little bit of a delay, but to finally get you on is awesome because your story is great, and having guys like you out there supporting basically all people, but on the skeptical side. So thank you for being on the show. I want to say if you want to support the show, you can be like Bobby, Hugh, and Teote, men of distinction, who go to patreon.com/Zachrilege. You can also follow me on Twitter, easy to spell, Zachrilege. You can like my Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook. Send all hate mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. So thank you again, Stephen, for being on tonight. I want to say to everybody listening, stay safe. And if you need to chat, I'm available. If you're an atheist and feel alone, you are not alone. Reach out, let's chat, and get that human connectiveness that keeps people coming back every Sunday. Good night.
Thank you very much.